Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, Tulsa's source for great gardens, southwoodgardencenter.com. And the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Today on Oklahoma Gardening, host Casey Hentges looks at a few ninebarks to consider adding to your landscape. We visit the Willham House, the home of the president of Oklahoma State University. Southern Hills Country Club in Tulsa shows how they're using drone technology to monitor their golf course. We find out the differences between London plane trees and sycamores, and Barbara Brown cooks caprese pasta salad.
Often when we think about great landscape plants, we think about glossiobilia, viburnums, spireas, and even crepe myrtles. But one that I want to remind you of is the ninebark, or Physocarpus opulifolius. You might remember the cultivar Diablo being named the 2006 Oklahoma Proven Shrub of the Year. And it was chosen because not only are ninebarks great shrubs for Oklahoma, but Diablo specifically has nice burgundy maroon foliage and is contrasted by these white clusters of flowers that it gets in the springtime. Now you can see it's a pretty large shrub, getting about 6 to 10 feet tall, which makes it a nice background plant or a plant that you might use for screening purposes. Now, if Diablo gets a little bit too large for your landscape, there are some other cultivars that you might consider trying. Amber Jubilee only gets about 5 to 6 feet tall with about a 4-foot spread. You'll notice that the foliage on it is a little bit different as well, as it starts out with kind of an orangey yellow new growth that then fades to green in the summertime and finally turns more of a purple color in the fall. There's also another cultivar called Summer Wine that again gets to be about 5 to 6 feet tall, and it's known to be a little bit more resistant to powdery mildew, which can sometimes be a problem with ninebarks. One feature that we really like about Summer Wine is the arching branches and the form that it creates in the landscape. Little Devil is another cultivar you might consider, only getting to be about 3 to 4 feet tall. And it looks similar to Diablo, but it looks like a miniature of Diablo. Even the foliage is much smaller, but it's still going to have that burgundy look to it. This actually might make a great substitution for barberry if you're looking to get rid of the thorns on that shrub. Little Devil adapts well to both wet and dry soil conditions and is also noted as being mildew resistant as well. Now, this plant is known as Physocarpus opulifolius, but the common name is ninebark, and it's known as ninebark because in the wintertime when you lose all of the foliage, you have several layers of exfoliating bark that provide some winter interest to carry you through those colder months. Ninebarks are great plants because not only do they adapt well to full sun and part shade, but several different soil conditions and are cold hardy to zones 2 to 3. We are here at the Willham House in Stillwater, and this is home to President Hargis and First Cowgirl Ann Hargis. And this house has been here for quite a while, but we wanted to take a little closer look at it. And joining us today is John Stevens, a horticulturist with Landscape Services. And John, you've been maintaining this residential landscape for a few years, is that correct?
Yes, five.
5 years. So tell us a little bit how it is to maintain a residential landscape versus the main campus.
Well, probably the biggest difference, Casey, is the amount of people that come by. On campus, you get a lot of foot traffic with all the thousands of students that come through. But out here, it's pretty quiet. It's just like, it's their home. There's this when people come out here, it's planned. It's usually an event,
And you have some big parties, though, you have to get ready for, too.
We do. We have a lot of student events throughout the semester, and depending on what semester it is, spring or fall, depends on the amount of...
Yeah, because I know they're really about opening up the home and having a few functions out here and stuff for people, and making it feel welcome for the students and stuff, too.
That's correct.
So let's talk a little bit. I mean, you've got some really neat detail out here. I mean, some of this stuff you probably wouldn't be able to do on main campus just because of the traffic, I would imagine.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, we have a lot of feature beds that we can put more detail in. We don't have to worry about being disturbed by students walking by.
Yeah.
We have a lot of garden space areas just for vegetables and fruit.
You do a lot of annual color?
Do a lot of annual color. We have seasonal change out twice a year in the spring and in the fall.
Okay. And then one thing also that you probably have a few more of out here is vegetables versus on campus. I know we have the Mother's Garden near the Atherton that has some herbs and vegetables, but you have something similar here too.
Yes, out here I only have to contend with just the animals and wildlife eating the fruit and vegetables, but on campus you have the foot traffic, obviously. And
you're surrounded by beautiful trees as well.
Exactly.
Well, let's go take a look at some of that detail a little closer.
All right.
John, your blueberries look fabulous here.
Thank you.
So tell me, what are you doing special to get them looking so good?
Well, Casey, with blueberries are kind of have to treat them like azaleas. They like well-drained, acidic soils.
Right.
So the beauty of having a planter like this is you can control that environment. With this particular planter, we had to use a lot of peat moss and some compost mix, and throughout the year I'll put soil sulfur and milorganite and just talk to them every day, and you get this.
That is true. I mean, having a raised bed here kind of allows you to, I mean, it's a permanent raised bed with concrete and stuff, but it allows you to kind of fix that soil specific for the blueberries versus affecting the turf grass around it.
That's correct.
Very nice. John, this is just a lovely patio garden back here.
Thank you.
It's kind of a nice little oasis for the Hargises, I imagine.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I have to first, let's talk about these trees here. I mean, this is just, they really kind of punctuate the garden and make a nice living wall.
Oh, yes, yes. These upright oaks, we've started using them on campus in recent years because of the expansion of campus. The construction footprints are getting making the bed smaller and smaller, tighter to spaces around the buildings. When these upright oaks, they provide height and they can give scale to a building.
Oh yeah.
And the beauty of them with being in tight spaces like that, the fruit and the leaves all fall and can stay contained within the bed, so it makes for easy cleanup.
Yeah, I mean, what, you have 6 trees here in maybe 30 feet of space?
Yes, they provide a great screening for back, because we have when the students come out and we have our functions out here in the evenings, it provides a great screening from the sun. And so,
yeah, and I love kind of watching them dance in the wind and stuff. And you've got a lot of other detail that you've incorporated out here, but I want to mention across the way here, you've got some hanging baskets, and I love the way they're framed in that arbor there.
Yes, thank you.
Is that a kit that was put together? Y'all manufactured that here?
We built that in-house.
Very
Our
nice.
department, some skilled laborers, carpenters in our department
Very
put that
nice,
together.
very nice. Well, and some of the other detail I want to mention, you have some wonderful pots, one right behind us here with the blonde ambition grass. And do you enjoy making the different combinations?
Oh yes, I love the different textures and just making it look, just tying it all together, making it look beautiful.
All right. And please, finally, we got to talk about this too. Your living wall over here. Is this Joseph's coat?
It is. We have 4 different cultivars of Joseph's coat, and this is probably one of my favorite features on the property. We change it out a couple of times a year. Takes some planning on my part. We usually start in the year before, the fall of the year before, to plan out a design so we know how many plants we need to buy. There's 330 cells that we have to account for on here. And it has a drip irrigation system with a spaghetti tubing that's behind the wall.
Okay.
It's gravity fed. Everything goes down. But occasionally we'll get hot spots on it, and I'll still have to hand water it. And just,
and so you always use Joseph coat, or have you used other plants?
some years we've used succulents.
Okay.
Some of them do decent. In other years, in the fall, we've used mums, and we usually try to spell out something OSU related, like Go Pokes or Cowboys or something. This year, though, we're experimenting. We're trying to see if we can add some more cells, so we've doubled up on some of the cells to try to create a different design, see what designs we can do for the future.
So on some of those diagonals, that's actually 2 different plants in that same cell.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, you can definitely see your diagonal lines, and I think the design just looks phenomenal.
Thank you.
So it looks like we have one more room back here.
Oh, yes.
Wow, it just keeps going. This is a nice little vegetable garden you have here, and you're doing it all in containers.
Yes, and it's kind of the same principles, just to be able to control the environment and what goes in. And mainly I'm just trying to keep the animals away from it. In previous years, we've had a lot of problems with animals, deer eating our vegetables. So.
Well, your tomatoes and squash all look pretty healthy, and you've got a few herbs back here. Do the Hargises come out here and enjoy some of the herbs and vegetables?
Oh yes, they use them daily.
Well, I know it's just a fabulous space, and I would be out here if I could every day. So thank you for sharing this garden with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming.
We are here at Southern Hills Country Club, joined by Wilson Neese, who is the horticulture manager. And Wilson, you've got a little bit of technology. How's that changing?
Yes, we do. Yeah, and so you can look behind us to see our drone that we have. And so we started this about a little over a year ago. And so our drone, we have it on a GPS system, and every day we fly our pattern of the golf course, and we get a visual image. And it's a thermal image of the golf course, so we can see our hot spots, where our grass is growing well, and kind of get the overall pattern of what our golf course goes through the changes from how we water to the rain that we receive, so we can kind of know where areas will dry out a little faster than others, and just kind of the overall health of our golf course.
So it actually gives you an infrared image back of all of your course.
Yes, so it's a full visual image, and so yeah, so we can kind of go day by day and be able to kind of in our mind kind of see the pattern that our golf course provides.
So this is quite a controller here. Are you controlling it, or what's the process?
I'll launch it, and then I'll put it into the autopilot, and we have our GPS map right here. And so it will fly the points, and then all we have to do is land it and put it into the system, and it'll provide us our visual image of the golf course.
And how long will it take for you to get those images back?
It takes about 4 to 5 hours after we fly. So our flight will last about 25 minutes, and then we'll plug it into the system, and then the guys from GreenSight up in Boston, Massachusetts will be able to provide us that information in about 4 to 5 hours.
So this is a service that you've actually contracted with somebody in Boston that's helping with.
Yeah, so they have about 25 courses, mainly on the eastern part of the United States. And so, yeah, so it's a company that they lease the drones out to us, and yeah, so they monitor the flight. So I have another person on the other end looking at the computer, making sure the battery life, everything is going well through the flight. So.
All right, and we've got all of our air clearance.
Yes,
are we ready to launch?
Yes, we are. We are ready to launch.
Let's take off then.
Okay.
Outside outside of Fort Gibson at the Hidden Lake property of Greenleaf Nursery, and joining us today is Mark Andrews. And Mark is a grower here at Greenleaf. And Mark, you've got a couple of trees you're growing behind us.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between a sycamore and a London plane tree?
Okay, with sycamore and London plane tree, there's several differences between them. One of the easiest ways to tell them apart is the leaves, in that a sycamore has a leaf and doesn't have a lot of indentations on the lobes, and this is a London plane tree here, so you can see that it's got a deeper cut in there between the lobes on the leaves. So this is one of the differences between them. And then the other difference is with a sycamore, it produces a seed ball, but it produces a single seed ball on a stalk, and on London plane tree they're produced in pairs.
All right, and so now these aren't just any sycamore and regular London plane tree either. They're
Right.
actually particular selections that you guys found around
Right.
Oklahoma here. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
One of the owners of Greenleaf, the principal owner, John Nickel, found these trees up in Tulsa. And the silverwood sycamore he found, it's actually around on Utica Avenue. And the reason why we selected it is because it has solid white bark all the way down to the ground, whereas most sycamores you'll see that white bark, but then as the wood ages it'll start going brown and the bark will turn brown. This maintains that white bark all the way down to the trunk, even on a mature tree.
Wow.
And with London plane tree you'll get some of that white bark, but it's nowhere near as showy. And so the Rockford Road London plane tree shows that same white bark characteristic, and all the way down to the ground again. And so it's rather unique for a London plane tree, and these were selected from trees planted in front of the Philbrook Museum on Rockford Road in Tulsa.
Well, how about that? And it's, I mean, both trees are really good trees, and they're also showy.
Right.
The nice thing about having that white bark is it gives you some winter interest too.
Right, exactly. And so that's really the main reason why we selected it. They're both will end up being big trees. The sycamore is definitely larger than a London plane tree, but both do well, you know, here in Oklahoma, and give you that interest all season long as far as having that white bark.
And they'll give you a lot of shade on a hot day.
That's
won't they?
right.
Once they
We
get a
need
little
these to get a little bigger.
a
Yes.
little bigger.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing these trees with us and differentiating this too.
Okay, you're welcome.
Today we're using some of the bounty from almost everybody's summer garden, and that we're going to be using some fresh tomatoes, making a caprese pasta salad. So I've got some hot water going here. I'm going to get the pasta started, although you can do the rest of the salad much earlier, do the pasta later, or you can do them together and let it sit for a while for the flavors to blend together. So I've got enough water to cook here, and then I'm going to add a tablespoon of kosher salt to that. And then I've got a pound of medium shells. So you could use another pasta, obviously. The recipe called for this one, so I'm sticking with it. And they're just going in and they're going to cook for the minimum amount of time, which in this case will be about 7 minutes. While those are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and get the tomato half of this salad going, I've got 2.5 cups of fresh tomatoes. You don't need to peel them, you don't need to seed them, although you can do either if you choose. But it's about 2.5 cups, give or take, because it's salad and you can play with the ingredients. So I'd rather use all of a tomato than have one sit in the refrigerator for a while. I'm also going to add to that 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. This is one of those salads that, because the fresh ingredients are the key, each ingredient needs to be the best that you can get. So if you've got heirloom tomatoes, slicing tomatoes, that are going to give you a much better tasting salad. You could make this in the winter, but you're not going to be nearly as happy with it. Also going to add to this about 10 large leaves of basil that I've cut in chiffonade, which means you just lay them flat, roll them up, and slice them. And then 2 cloves of garlic that have been minced. And this one of these was really big, so I'm not going to try and clean that one out completely. I've got about 1/8 of a teaspoon or a big pinch of red pepper flakes, about 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now we did salt the pasta because I want some flavor coming out of there, but I've also added some here. If you're worried about that the sodium may be a little bit too high, you may notice that we also have some fresh mozzarella here, which tends not to have as much sodium in it as like a cheese stick, although that's mozzarella as well. So you won't get quite as much of a kick here, but it would be a good idea for you to go ahead and, if you're concerned about the sodium content, to wait and let this blend together. You can always add more salt, but it's real hard to take it back out. You're going to cover this, set it in the refrigerator, and you can do this part of it up to 3 hours ahead of time. You want to make sure that you get it all well blended so that it's getting plenty of time and plenty of exposure to all the ingredients, so the marination goes across the board here rather than just in pockets and have a lot of salt or a lot of basil in one place. Again, this can be done 3 hours ahead of time. It just needs to be in the refrigerator, or you can wait and do this closer to the time the pasta is ready. So we'll just wait here until we have pasta. Pasta's done. Make sure you get it drained really well. Now, it's okay if you have a little bit of water in some of the shells, because you might want to have a little bit of that extra water in the salad anyway, just like when you make any other pasta sauce. Just going to stir these together. I did cool the pasta down a little bit because I didn't want it to actually melt the cheese. Now this you can serve now. You can let it come to room temperature, or you can put it in the refrigerator and serve it a little bit later. You might have a little bit more basil sliced up to add to it, but this is all there is to doing this one. It's really good. It's a full meal because you have the cheese in there, and it's full of flavor with the garlic and the basil and everything else, and it's designed to look like the Italian flag with the red, green, and white. So I hope you'll give it a try. I think you'll like it if you do. It's caprese pasta salad. For Oklahoma Gardening, I'm Barbara Brown.
There are lots of great horticultural events this time of year. Be sure and consider these activities when you're making your plans for the weeks ahead. Next week, we visit Osage County, Oklahoma. We look at a pioneering pocket park in Pawhuska, a pollinator planting, a special educational greenhouse, and in Tulsa, we dive into a unique community garden. So be sure and join us next week for more TV You'll Grow to Love. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussions on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows, as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater jewel. We wish to thank our generous underwriters, Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is provided by Pond Pro Shops, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, and the Oklahoma Horticultural Society.